On the windward side of the island of Oahu is the seaside town of Hauula. This is a place of deep significance that reaches back to ancient Hawaii. Hauula is the site of the Manawila Heiau, an ancient and sacred place of healing and medicine. To this day, Hauula is a place of peace and healing. The first recorded baptism of a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Hauula was a man named Kealoha in 1851. He and other local pioneer saints planted the first seeds of faith that would later grow into the Hauula Third Ward. H3 is a unique community that has grown and changed and reinvented itself over the decades. But deep in the culture of this ward is a legacy of authenticity and acceptance. Whoever you are, wherever you've been, whatever your past, you belong here with us in H3. The church in Hauula had its humble beginnings in the Laia Malo'o branch. It grew quickly, as documented in the Honolulu Advertiser in the 1920s.
The earliest I could find was in 1924. James Amaka Kaio was assigned to be the branch president of the Laia Malo'o branch. 1924, that's 99 years ago. So, and he wasn't the first branch president. We just don't have a record. It's always existed as long as the Laia mission has existed. But Amaka Kaio is very popular because he, Auntie Kella's grandfather, everyone knows Auntie Kella from Laia, but he's also the one that swam out to get the shipwreck. There was a shipwreck on the Middle Rock in Hukilang to get the wood so they could finish the temple lang. So he was a pioneer, but he was the first branch president, local branch president of the Laia Malo'o branch. And for those who are watching who may not know, all of us who currently live in the Hauula Third Ward live in the same geographical area that would have attended the Laia Malo'o branch. So that's the connection.
By the 1930s, several groups of saints in Hauula also merged with the Laia Malo'o branch, causing its numbers to swell.
The church was on a property right next to the river, the Kokololio stream, on the Laia side. It's currently where the Vuniwais live. That land is owned by the church, and the chapel was there.
But complications during World War II in the 1940s led to the closing of the Laia Malo'o chapel, and members were encouraged to meet in the Laia mission in Laie.
After the war was done, because the military built a air runway, it's called Marconi. The old folks will know Marconi Air Base, but it's not there anymore. It's just south of the Turtle Bay Hotel. It's just south of there. It was an airstrip, a military airstrip. And when they broke down the buildings, they actually gave the wood to the Red Cross. And a lot of the churches, not only the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but a lot of the churches got free lumber. And so the Laia Malo'o branch was a benefit of that, where they got the lumber and they built a newer chapel.
A new site for moving and expanding the chapel was found further down the Kamehameha Highway, just south of Kokololio Beach Park. John Kapu was the branch president at the time.
My father's father was the last branch president actually for the Laia Malo'o branch before they closed it. His name was John Kapu, and I always grew up being John Kapu's grandson. Everyone knew my grandfather. He was quite well, during his time he was really well known.
Branch President Kapu had the task of moving the original chapel so that it could be expanded on its new site, a task that many people believed was impossible.
They finally decided they'd have to move it, but there was, it was so big, what do you move it with? And so they went to the plantation people, and they had what they called lowriders. And they agreed finally that they would use one of those to move the chapel. Well, the guy finally got out here to move it that day, and he says, there's no way that building will come, it'll fall apart. And the bishop finally, the branch president, finally promised that if there was a collapse, it would be a church problem, not a plantation problem. And so they did. And he walked. The bishop prayed and then walked. And they got there safely.
In 1952, the chapel was moved again, this time to the plot of land where the current Mackay Chapel stands today.
They had to cut the building in half and take it half at a time. And they took the some army barracks and had those for the junior Sunday school and the old chapel for the adults.
The relocated chapel was dedicated by Elder Henry D. Moyle of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles in 1952.
And they were meeting at the time in one of those army barracks. That was the original chapel at the time. And it was so cozy that it was mostly old people, old Hawaiians, old Samoans who had moved to Hawaii. And we felt so at home. And the kids were everybody's kids, you know, they were running all over. But it was so comfy, and we decided we make Hauula as our home. I was a stranger, like, you know, but they took me in when they found I'm from Tahiti. Oh, you went from your parents, my husband from Tonga, and so we just became one of them.
In 1960, the Hauula branch became the Hauula Ward. Soon after, construction began on the Mackay Chapel.
And it was mostly older people. There were not too many young marrieds, so we felt very privileged to be with the young people in the ward, because our babies became everybody's baby. My eldest boy, every Sunday, somebody will grab him. But some of the older Hawaiians or some of the newer younger ones, but older people, they would take them, and we have to go and hunt for him in the evening to bring him home. That's how close the people were. They just borrowed each other's kids, and that was especially for the older people. Ward, and I became the Laurel teacher, but later on I became the president just a few months later, and I used to pick up girls from Laie, and then all the way to Ka'awa, I would drive that far to pick up the girls, the Laurels, to come to the young women meetings. It was wonderful. We would talk stories. Some of them had grandparents who had stories about Ka'awa, the park over there. They had all kinds of stories, Hawaiian people. The night walkers, you know, they even have those. So our trip was not in vain, you know, it was fun.
In 1963, the Mackay Chapel was dedicated by Elder Gordon B. Hinckley. Church membership in Hauula grew rapidly in the years that followed, fueled largely by new move-ins from the neighboring town of Laie.
I know my father has mentioned this a couple of times, that as a young boy, you know, they would drive through Laie or they go play in Laie, and he said Laie was a nothing town. You know, he said, in fact, what he said once in a indirect compliment to Laie was, he goes, if you had told me when I was a young boy that someday Laie would be the center of the community, he goes, I'd never believe it, because at the time, the sugar mill in Kahuku was the economic driver, and the courthouse and the police station was in Hauula, right? So and Laie was just someplace you drove through to go to the two. But I think with the development of the church and the cultural center, you know, so like Uncle Harvey, for example, is a good example. He's actually a Laie boy. Although now he's Hauula for 60-something years, but, you know, people from Laie started moving to Hauula. The Makayals, a whole bunch of these Laie pioneer families moved to Hauula and started to make the growth, yeah.
Okay, my name is Pamela. No, my name is Auntie Pam to everyone. I was born in Kahuku, lived in Laie the first 15 years of my life, and the rest in Hauula. My husband became a member of the church in 1973 and made me active because I was a renegade Mormon. After he joined the church and we became active, there was no stopping me. Well, another thing is when I look back at how these individual leaders that once were leaders, they were renegades in Laie. I won't tell the names, but they were renegades. But when they moved to Hauula, there was a big change, and these individuals became leaders in the right way.
I think, like me, they were less active in church in Laie. Just wanted to start a new life and go to a place where they can have a new beginning. And I know the Lord had something to do with that, and a lot of them. Like my neighbor across the street, he was like me. We're almost the same age. He's a year older than me, but he was our bishop in Hauula first. And because of him, his example. That's why I started to go back to church, and and there was a lot of them.
At that time already, the church was already the biggest organized religion in Hauula. I mean, I think during my father's time and my grandfather's time, the congregational church would have had a larger membership. But by the time that I was a young boy, we were already well surpassed the congregation of any other church in Hauula.
In 1968, the Hauula ward was divided into the Hauula First and Hauula Second wards. 9 years later, in 1977, the boundaries were adjusted again, and the Hauula Third ward was born.
April 10th, 1977, this ward was created 46 years ago.
I was in the 6th grade, I remember. So I was either 11 or 12. And I remember we just went to church, and Brother President Mailo, he's the stake president, stood up and said there's going to be a new ward. And then he said Uncle Harvey was going to be the bishop. And it was just really exciting.
I said, we're going to start a new ward in Hauula. And we were wondering if he would accept the calling to be a bishop. How old was I? 32? And it was very scary. And I says, why me, President? There's a lot of people in our ward that can do that. Why me? He says, I don't know. What's your name? Then my mom walked in. How can you say no with your mom there? And that's how it started. Hauula Third.
The upper part of this subdivision is considered Hauula First ward, the lower part. Of course, at the time, the bishop fought for this circle because he wanted me in his ward.
It was just an interesting, exciting time. It's like you're starting from scratch. Everyone was just kind of trying to figure things out, and that's what it seemed like. But in all of that, there was an excitement, and there was a lot of like a unity. Like everyone was engrossed in this common cause.
We had nothing. We didn't even have a bishop's office. We had a classroom that we made into an office and divided that classroom into two separate parts where the clerks would be in one, and then we would have the bishop's office in the other part of the room. And we stayed there for years. I think we were so close to one another. We had activities, crazy activities. Ward camps. Nobody could beat our ward camp. People might say no, their ward was the best, but I think I'm being selfish about this. We were the best ward.
We ended up with a powerhouse of a bishopric. President Alapa, well, he was Bishop Alapa back then. Simoti Iloa and Tommy Adolfo and they were all about the youth. We were always doing fun activities together. We had a very large group of youth, but a very tight-knit group of youth. We were very close, both at school as well as in church. We hung out together. We did a lot of things together.
As a youth, ward camp was a big one, and we used to camp for 2 weeks. So, like literally, we have ward camp, and then you would go to church on Sunday. We'd come home, and then you camp another week. And so at that time, the church owned Kokololeo Beach Park, and so you could do that, and there wasn't that many wards, and so ward camp was it was just fun. It was just fun, and everyone came. And I think back then, Hawaii had a slower lifestyle. I mean, I think people nowadays are just really too busy to come and hang out at camp for 2 weeks, which is unfortunate. But I think back then it was doable, We weren't as crazy as we are now.
A lot of memories at ward camp. That's where you bond, you grow, you know. And so the funnest part was the last day. We had cream day, so everyone knew you had shaving cream ready, eggs, and whatever you wanted, rotten fruits. We'd pick up. We had papaya patches in front of our house, so we would bring boxes of overripe papayas. And if you fell asleep, you'd wake up with toothpaste on you, shaving cream. You were jacked up. So you tried your best to stay awake. Everyone would be together playing Monopoly, whatever, trying to keep each other awake. But someone would give in and go to the tent. Word would spread fast. And we'd go over there, unzip slowly, and just make that person regret it.
Ward camp was a huge thing for our ward. Like, Auntie Pam used to hold penny carnivals. And that was one thing that we all looked forward to. We used to camp at Coachella Beach Park. And we would stay up, like, I kid you not, to like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was like nonsense. There was no electronics. It was just us talking story, going crab hunting, just enjoying each other's company. So I'm hoping my kids do that. I mean, it looks like they're doing it, but 0 electronics. That's the goal up forward. Yes, Mike Tuia. Not little Mike, but his dad. We used to, on the last day of camp, go around and mob each other. And he was a youth leader. And I remember him going into one of the boys' tents and like whip creaming them. Because we tried to duct tape him to the cot and it didn't work. And then he came full force. So he was like the one to run away from at ward camp. Yeah. So yeah, Uncle Mike, yeah. You remember.
So this is Mike Tuya, Bishop Mike Tuya.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he's not innocent whatsoever.
And the people gathered often. You know, the families would gather and they invite the whole ward. We have somebody at the bridge just before the Crouching Lion. They have a property there. They're always having parties and inviting everybody, all the wards to come. And we never miss them. Nobody wants to miss the gathering. You know, we bring some whatever we have, and it was a big party. So it brought us more united. It's so beautifully done, you know. And it was not forced. It's up to you. But this little guy, Filipino, not Filipino, Japanese, would announce it, you know, and people will get together and just the fun of it. It's close to the ocean. Kids go and play. The parents are talking and all kind of fun things. Even now, my kids grew up with all uncles and aunties of Hauula. And people think, you have a big family. I said, yes, I do. I do have a big family.
We always felt that Coachella Park was Hauula Third Ward boundary, and that was our park. So whenever we had a get-together, it's at Coachella Park. But anyway, at this time we had an activity where all the different cultures would make a special, like the Samoans would do their umu, and the Tongans would do their huli pigs and stuff, and the Hawaiians would do their kalua pig. And we did this activity for the day where we would get up early in the morning, and we couldn't go to the store. Everything has to be harvested wherever you went to the farm and get whatever you had to do. And we put the thing together. And that activity really brought us together as a ward. You know, we didn't go to the store. Everybody went out and figured it out. Went to your food storage and got whatever you had to do to make whatever your special dish was.
And we all made our own islands, our island food. And then when we ate in the afternoon, Saturday afternoon, oh, what a feast, you know, and to watch everybody enjoy what each other made, and they saw it, they participated, it made it even more tasty. You know, it was wonderful. It was President Wade's time. I think my husband was his counselor, and a few other, I think another bishop did it too. But the spirit, it was wonderful. Even you didn't want to go work that day because you wanted to see what's going on. Some of the young girls learned how to weave things. You know, there's a group of us that taught how to weave little basket. Instead of having paper plates, we use leaves, coconut leaves plates to put our food inside.
So we used to have and they had this up until the 90s when our ward, when they created the Samoan ward, they used to have second hour class, gospel doctrine English, gospel doctrine Tongan language, gospel doctrine Samoan language. So it's like in sacrament meeting, everything was held in English, but it was very common for someone to get up and talk in Samoan. It was very common for someone to get up and talk in Tongan. And you just sat there, you didn't understand what they were saying. You know, you're just like listening, they bear their testimony in Samoan, and then they sit down. Second hour, everyone would go to their language class, and then third hour, we came back together, Priesthood and Relief Society.
And they learned to listen to each other. Yeah, sometimes I go there to translate, and they would listen to my parents talk, and they would say that word again, it's like Hawaiian. And so it is. It is the same, except we say it a different because they don't have R's and they don't have T's, you know, but when you say that their way, it's almost the same meaning. So that was fun. It brings them together. They listen more to each other instead saying it and it's enough because you understood right away. But now you don't understand, so you learn to listen to each other.
Every ward had to come up with X amount of dollars every month or every quarter. And so, you know, we weren't rich those days, but everybody was willing. So we started this breakfast. We made breakfast, it was a monthly thing. And that really brought the ward closer together. We had this sister, her name was Sister Kinolao. She's a widow. And I put her in charge. We used to call her the general. You know, people might laugh at that, but when they hear her name, they're going to remember her. But she was the general. And we had to raise $3,000 every quarter for the building fund. And so we decided, let's do something where, so every month we'd have this breakfast. And we made it.
The church used to have an intramural program. They don't have intramural sports anymore. But Hauula Third Ward, we used to really be good at it. So that was one of the things. When we split from Hauula First Ward, all the athletes lived in Hauula Third Ward. And so so Hauula First Ward went down and Hauula Third Ward stayed strong. But basketball and volleyball, and we were always one of the finalists for the whole island.
You know, because we had the Samoans in our ward. And, you know, Samoans, they hate losing. So if they lost the game, they would win the fight. Let's just put it that way. So we were always the winners after the game. After we lost the game, we won the fight. But and then on Sundays, we'll be singing again with each other, just like nothing happened. So that was the sports. Well, at that time, it didn't matter who you were. It's just that we were happy sharing with one another our different cultures and different things about life.
As church membership in Hauula continued to grow into the late 1980s, local leaders began the process of finding a site for a new chapel in Hauula.
We were assigned to find another place to build a chapel. And I was on the stake president at the time. So we had the hardest time finding a place big enough because the church said we needed some place where it's one day would be a stake center. And to have a stake center, you need at least 2 to 3 acres of land. But here in Hauula, there wasn't any available, and that was the only spot. And I think it's just a little over 2 acres or maybe less than 2 acres. But then the church decided to go ahead and do that, and then they purchased it. And that's how it became Mauka Chapel.
Etua Tahari was a member of the committee that went to Honolulu to appeal to the city council for permission to build the new chapel.
Before we left, I said, hey, we need to say prayer. So we did. Then as we're traveling, I know the Lord was guiding me what to say when I reached over there. So we passed, we went to Kolo, right? I said, oh, stop. We need to say another prayer. And we stopped the car. And then we say our prayer. But when time came, and they said, okay, I was the last one. So I stood up. And I started introducing myself, who I was. And then I said, well, you know, we need the chapel. And I said, you know, we have this place. If a tsunami came, where would they go? You know, you have to go up in the mountain. And these people, they don't want anybody to cross their land. But the church is there, the church land, we need to buy. And then one or another thing came to my mind, and I said, wow, you see the elementary service there. What are you going to do with the elementary school? Where are you going to have the children run? They need a place to go. And then they start smiling. You know, they're smiling, oh. And they say, oh, you have some more information to give us? And I said, yes. You know, I told them all these things that happened on the way, that we need a chapel there.
In 1990, the Mauka Chapel was completed and the Hauula Third Ward had a new home. Over the coming years, we continued the traditions that brought us close as a ward and nurtured a culture of unity, faith, and fun.
Our camp were the best. We camped over here at Kakela. It was crazy. And those days we camped for 2 weeks. 1 week to 2 weeks, and I tell you, the whole place is packed with people. It was the best time. We have a guy that would build something by the ocean. You know, you get a raft. The kids just loved it, and whoever had a boat will bring it over, and everybody's having fun. And when it comes to meal time, well, you never really ate your food because you went visiting around and eating everybody's food. And we had some special people that you know you'll get good food over there. So you go and say, oh, hi there. Yes, we have plenty of that, and we enjoyed it.
And they had, during our ward camps, they would always have a big primary penny fair. And so that was a big thing too.
Whenever there was a ward camp, because I was in Cubs County, and they had a theme for this particular month, penny fair. So I created a penny fair, whereas they can have like a little carnival without rides, of course, but game, booths, and food concession, and all it cost them was pennies. And in fact, that joint there has a lot of those pennies.
Oh, wow.
There was more pennies, but I just kept a few. So some of those pennies there is from the penny parade fairs that we used to have. And we had it a lot, so much that other wards started to pick up on it. So they had their own penny fairs in their camps also. One time at girls' camp, we were setting up those big army tents, those big ones. And Bishop at the time was Bishop Simmons. And he came with, we stood to put it up. I said, no, the girls need to put it up themselves. I said, I said, I'll teach them. And so they sat on the side and was watching the girls work together. And that's how all the Third Ward is. I want working together for one purpose in mind.
In particular was Auntie Pam Kealoha. She was our young woman camp leader, and she would make us set up our easy corner by ourselves, our tents by ourselves. She would make us cook our food by ourselves with like minimum supervision. Not that she wasn't there. I mean, she was there, but not there. And then she would always tell us that you can be my, what's that called? Favorite? Was it favorite person? Or you could be, it was like to the extent where you could be on her good side or her bad side. So we were always like, we're going to be on your good side because we don't want to feel your wrath. But
The youth of H3 distinguished themselves in the 1990s. Matu'u Pulotu brought media attention to Hauula when he became a local hero.
So Jerome Uluave and I were walking, I think it was, we had a ward activity, I believe, at Kakela, and we had to finish a school project. So we were walking on our way from Kakela to BYU to go to the library. So as we rounded the corner, about right where the Vuni Wise house is, we just heard some kind of screaming, and a car drove by us and pulled over, and we noticed there was a woman and someone in the passenger seat, and we just heard screaming, so we ran over to see what was happening, and just as we I ran to the driver's side and Jerome ran to the passenger side. Flames burst out from the floor of the car, and we're like, what the heck? What are we gonna do, you know? So, of course, we tried to open the door. I opened the door. She was frantically trying to get her seatbelt off, which, in a panic, you know, she couldn't. So I reached over and I helped Auntie loosen it while Jerome took the granddaughter out of the car. And then I helped walk her over to the side, and we tried to clear it, get them far enough away from the car, you know, not knowing how the car would react with the flames. And then we went to and started to do traffic control, stopped the cars coming from both sides, and then some people came out, started helping with the traffic. I went back to Auntie, and by then her leg had blistered. It had been burnt so bad that, like the suckling pig's skin, it just, her leg were crackling. You could see her skin had just puffed out, blistered so bad. And I was like, whoa, man. So I helped her sit down. She was a rather large woman. I know her as Auntie Bugsy. And we waited, and in a short while, a police officer came, and then the ambulance came, and then, you know, we got them in the car. Police asked us what happened. We shared briefly. And then we went to the library. You know, we had to go do our project. And then, you know, when the awards started coming up, we're like, we don't want that. What's that for? We didn't. For us, we just did what anyone should do. I believe anyone would have done that. We just happened, I guess, to be at the right place at the right time.
Another distinguished youth at the time was Paul Waite, who was the first scout in Hauula to earn the rank of Eagle Scout.
And so my mom was the big push behind me. And there was one other boy in the ward that was trying really hard to be that first Eagle Scout as well. And as we were going neck and neck, I'm not sure what happened, but I ended up edging him out by only a few months, and was able to complete my Eagle Scout project, as well as all my merit badges, and turn all the paperwork in. But I did become, I was around maybe 15-ish years old when I became that first Eagle Scout in Hauula. And then after that, it blossomed. It was like it wasn't a hard thing to do. Everybody started getting it. So there were very many Eagle Scouts after that. And so I hold that title, but I guess if I was to brag, it would be to brag to my mom for constantly pushing me to get it done.
Many people stepped up as leaders of the ward. Some have passed on, like Bishop Henry Simmons, Bishop Garth Allred, and Bishop Sione Pasi. But their memory is alive in H3. H3 entered the 21st century with a rich history and a legacy of inclusion. People are still drawn from all over the world to this ancient place of peace and healing.
I think the older people have passed on, but I would hear their testimonies every so often about the specialness of this ward. And they said, we see families move in a short period of time, then they move out. But as they're here, they have come from someplace else, maybe with some challenges or something. And I remember Sister Simmons, Bishop Simmons' wife, when she shares his testimony, said, you know, and the other older folks would say, the ward is like a healing ward. They come here, they heal themselves, and then they're back on their feet and they move on. And so it was an exception. And for me, it's like, maybe because I live here and I know it, I don't feel any healing, but they do. They come, and when these individuals or families here, as now they're ready to move back or move away, the love they have. And we'll also mention that it was like a place I had just come to just take a break, let go of everything else, heal myself and go back out. Just feel the love for those who struggled. Not struggled of something that, just struggling and so forth. I would let them know, like, just let it go. You don't need to carry all that. You already confess your sin, or you already had just unload to me your struggles and so forth. And so I'd always counsel them and say, it's okay, and just let it go. And so that one award conference, I said, this will be the theme for it.
I was inactive for a long time. I remember coming back to church. I was about 32 years old, and I was still a deacon. I put that all behind me, and thankfully the Savior has accepted me back. He's blessed my life, abundantly, and so I'm just grateful. But it's the part where the Word accepted me, sustained me as bishop, and I think that was probably the most humbling I've ever felt, because I remember the process. It's as if they're saying that's all behind us, right? Moving forward, for them to sustain me as bishop at that point in time, it was very humbling.
Through the decades, H3 has grown into a community where people look out for each other and help each other in tough times.
One that really stuck out to me was the Fa family. And I remember that Sunday after state conference where we were headed, we always have it at BYU, and so we were coming home, and it was raining really hard that day. And as we drove by their house, they lived over there at just before Pounders as you're headed towards on the mountainside, and we could see that their place was getting flooded. So I just immediately told my wife, I'm going to go home, change clothes, I'm going to come back and do whatever we can. By the time I got back there were other ward members there. We put a big tarp over their roof just to stop the rain from coming through, and we tried to block the sand from the water with sandbags from entering their place. What was nice was that there were others there already helping. There were others that were willing to and recognized the need of that family. They knew that we were currently there helping fix certain things, but when we were driving by, we could just see, it was obvious that the rain, the floods was rising there. And so by the time I got back, like I said, they were there already. Members from the ward were there assisting. So, that to me, that's telling me that the ward is aware of each other. Yeah, the ward's coming together.
I was lucky to be Auntie Pam Kealoha's home teacher when I first moved in. And I didn't realize what a gift that was at first. But as I went up there, introduced myself to her, reached out to shake her hand, and she said, "We don't shake hands here," and just gave me a hug, and just kind of taught me how things were in Hauula Third Ward. But she's so down to earth, and tells things like they are. There's no errors about anything. So she's one person that I think kind of has a little bit of the flavor of Hauula Third Ward, and I know she was the teacher of many of the leaders since then in the past few years who have been bishops or kind of leadership positions in the ward.
Anyone in particular? I think Bishop Beatty he really reached out to us and tried to help us feel welcome. The Kanongata'as, even Sean DeKoikoi, he was our boys were in Young Men's, and he really reached out to our boys and helped them, and yeah, I think those were some of the Ewans. When we came to the First Ward party, they welcomed us right in. So I think it was definitely a group effort. and welcoming us to the ward. One of the things I was kind of impressed to do was to go out and visit people in their homes, which I think maybe made some people a little bit uncomfortable, honestly, but they were good about it. You know, they were kind about it and willing to kind of give me that leeway to do that and welcome me into their homes. I really appreciated that.
So I moved into Hauula 3rd Ward 2010, and my wife and 5 girls, we moved into the ward, and lo and behold, the first person to welcome me into the ward was, he wasn't the bishop then, he was in the Elders Quorum presidency, Bishop Beatty. And so that's how we got welcomed into the ward. I just think there was a good blend of, new move-ins, old timers, and then you had some young couples that were always like renting, so they were here and there. So there was a lot of transit for as far as renters. So there was a good blend to where there's, to me, I didn't see cliques. I saw a lot of people really getting together, reaching out to one another, and getting to know one another, and that's what I loved about Hauula 3rd Ward.
Hauula 3rd Ward has never stopped changing, never stopped growing, and never stopped welcoming new members and visitors from every part of the world and every walk of life.
New people are coming in, moving in, and for me, I'm hoping that they can still feel that spirit or the aloha and so forth. Not so much how intelligent you are. We know that, but it's more so what's in your heart of the, that can help us spiritually grow.
I think that's what this also community and then the ward is about. Like even in a long time ago, I know that they were close to each other. Everyone knows each other. Everyone welcomes each other. And then I think that's the best part and then the great things about the ward and the community. And then I definitely feel the sense of the same welcome, warm feelings in the Hauula 3rd Ward. Actually, our first introduction to the ward was the ward camp. It was very, we really enjoyed seeing what's the ward like, and what is the people like, and to get to know people, and then doing some activities together. So that was like the first great start for us to get to know people. One of the night that we went was the talent show. My husband was doing the MC, so they were just bringing some the talents to show. And then it was just like small dance party. It was interesting because the neighbors were also a Samoan ward. So I was feeling like competing with which ward can blast louder music.
Ward camp was a lot of fun with Bishop there. I didn't even hear this, but I heard he broke out into AC/DC karaoke at one point in ward camp. And just his ability to kind of let his hair down and do stuff like that, I think is really great.
I can't forget about ward camp. And then now with Bishop Kapu at the, he's really big into ward camp, and he's always the main t-shirt printer dude.
I think our people are real, and not to say that other people aren't, but I think that I don't think too many people in our ward. I don't think there's anyone in our ward who doesn't show their true colors per se.
Hauula 3rd Ward is come as you are. We'll take you, warts and all that sort of thing.
The people here are just welcoming of anybody, despite their background. Doesn't matter what kind of car you drive or what you do for a living. Everyone is kind of seen as a child of God and welcomed in that way.
Hauula 3rd Ward, we thought it's like the good mix of different ethnicity, and we really like that because it's a lot of different perspective.
It's a melting pot, and we're trying to create that no matter who comes into the ward, and I think Bishop Kapu is trying. to make that transition for families that are new to the Word, for families that are returning to the Word, because I know we've had families that are returning to the Word because they love the feel of the Word. And that's what we hope, that first timers, when they, for whatever reason, they'll move on and say, I really love Hauula Third Ward. I want to go back.
This is what the gospel is. Everybody, doesn't matter where you come from. This is where I think we are tested, how we are, how we believe the gospel. It's not just for me, it's not just for them, but it's for all of us. And if we do it together, there's unity that comes out of it.
And that's the thing about this ward too, is one of the biggest things, and I guess it's the same with all wards, is how food brings everybody together. These food activities, and so and then there's a lot of good cooks in the ward. I bet some wards have good cooks, some don't, but for some reason this ward has a lot of good cooks. And so for that ward breakfast, everybody contributed, threw in their special dishes, and it was a great activity, and everybody came together. I really love that.
A lot of these people that I know in Hauula Third Ward have that same sort of mentality of like they feel a little ill at ease being up on the stand or being in front of people, but they're very ready to help and serve when the need is really there.
Somehow, some way, they're able to raise very respectful children. My wife, she worked at Kahuku as a substitute, and she rarely had problems with students giving her a hard time. They were always very respectful. The fact that we, auntie, uncle, I think that's part of that respect, and so I've always valued that highly.
I just want to remind everybody how special this place is. Just being here for just a few minutes. My wife and my daughter, they don't want to leave, and I've just tried to convince them that don't worry, we'll be able to visit. But one thing they just wanted to just say is that they love and miss Hauula Third Ward, and that just a reminder, this is a special place. That you live in a special place, not only in this state, but even in this ward. There's a special spirit. There's a special mana, aloha here that we love and we miss so much.
What makes Hauula Third Ward special, like any ward that's special, is the people. It's not the ward assignment, the third ward. It's you have good people in the ward, and they open up their homes and they pay attention and they love and they teach, they forgive, they laugh, they cry. And I think that's what makes the ward special.
I think we have to learn to let go of our pride and just learn to be kind and love each other, and just more understanding. Just more understanding. Where are you from? And this is the way we do things. This is the way I know you do things, but just more understanding. I cannot change you, but I can continue to be kind and be understanding. And hopefully then that you can understand me and so forth. And then we just work together.
Using differences as strengths. Like, for example, the Waits were a fairly young family, new to Hawaii. And Auntie Leila, Paul's mom would make pastries. She made awesome custard desserts, eclairs, stuff that none of our parents knew how to make because it just wasn't in their skills. So of course we look forward to those. We had others who would make scones, which was new to us too. It was for us who are used to the heavier Polynesian fried breads. We're like, whoa, this is good. This is light, and just different stuff. They would make homemade root beer, stuff that we weren't exposed to, and likewise they would enjoy the foods we make, and that's what made it fun.
Just love each other. Don't judge. Just love them for who they are. And we need to have a lot of activities. I really feel activities, like I'm pro activities, so like if you need me to plan activities, I will plan activities. Just because I feel activities bring people together outside of church.
Somewhere along the line, we've slowly slowed down in two areas, the activities and the service projects. I remember forever doing service projects. My dad, we're going to go fix so-and-so's room. And the whole ward would just show up. We're going to go to the welfare farm, and we're all going to go work today. And I remember having those bonds from those early days of us in the taro patches of the old welfare farms, of us on somebody's roof or fixing plumbing or whatever it was. And I think we've gone away from that a little bit. But if we bring that back up, if we resurrect service projects and activities, it'll all grow back together. That's how we bond, yeah, as we help one another and as we rub shoulders, even if it's just in a fun event.
I look some of the members, big time challenges that have. So I think it's our responsibility to be nice, to be, see what you can do to comfort.
Visit the children. When he passed away, what they had? Nothing. Only children. Yeah, I can remember. Go home, change clothes. My mom, my wife said, "Oh, I know where to visit." Yeah. So the only thing is best is the children.
Connecting with people is really important for us, and then I think that's something that everyone needs in life, you know, especially the hard time. Only thing that what matters most is the people, and then connecting and then reaching out to each other. So just at the church, you know, just even if it's a 1 hour, 2 hours, the short time that we gather once a week, but that 10 minutes, 5 minutes meeting and changed everything.
The culture of belonging runs deep here. We learned it from those who built and strengthened Hauula Third Ward in the past, and we share it with everyone who joins with us today. At the heart of our ward is a love of Christ that draws us together from all over the world and unites us as brothers and sisters.
Like any family, you know, you have all these different opinions, you have all these different personalities, and you're just trying to make them work together, find that cohesion. It's not easy, it ain't easy, but you know, getting back to Christ, you know, we're all there because of Him.
I think the people, because their love of Christ, I mean, they focus on the Savior. I think that's the commonality, the common bond. I mean, that's what it was before. You know, I couldn't understand what they were saying in Tongan. I couldn't understand what they were saying in Samoan. But you could tell that they had a love for the Savior, even though you couldn't understand that language. It's just that same love carried on, but it's just we're all one language now, yeah. But and I think the Haulis that came, they were good Haulis, you know what I mean? They took off their shoes and they got dirty with everybody else, right? They they were good people, and I think that made a big difference. Yeah.
President Hinckley said, what we have achieved here in integrating all of the cultures into such a family, he says, that has got to happen worldwide before we'll ever become a Zion society.
Well, the thing is, all I know is the spirit of aloha. You don't judge a person because they're blonde, they're brown. You judge a person because they're Heavenly Father's children. And you want to get to know them and love them the way He wants us to love one another. And although there's a few that may be standoffish because of the difference, I want them to feel that they don't have to be standoffish, that they are part of my ohana, Hauula Third Ward ohana.
That's how it's supposed to be. For us to be able to share with one another, not just culture, but with the gospel. That's how it's supposed to be. that you open your heart and your mind to different things.
Don't forget the Lord. Lord is always first. Put Him in your life and everything will fall through perfectly. Once you forget, He's not obligated to you. I have been blessed. The Lord has blessed me with many talents and many supportive people. And I could never have done it by myself without Him in my corner. Even what I'm going through now with my sickness, I have been living with cancer for the past 9 years. I should have been gone by now, at least that's the way a big man would think. But He has sustained me with His support and help of my family and friends. And I'm still going. For whatever reason He keeps me here, I will be here for Him. Even if it's just my testimony to my children and grandchildren.
The kids nowadays that I see in the ward, like the Pulotu kids, you can see that they're still there, still supporting the ward, and it's amazing to see them. And some of them, they moved on, but they still have that habit of running whatever they're called to, running their program like how they were raised in the church. And I'm happy and I'm proud to know that they had humble beginnings and good beginnings in our little special ward.
The Lord is working in Hauula Third Ward. He's shining through those people, and he's bringing them in close to Him through ordinances like the sacrament and through meeting together each week.
Satan focuses on what we are. You're this, you did that, you did this. But the Heavenly Father, He focuses on what we can become. And sometimes that's hard to see for us to see, and it's hard to connect the dots. Anyways, that's how it is with all of us. You may not be perfect, but you're the right fit for us. It takes unity and teamwork comes from the right fit of people. You can't. Sometimes you get a bunch of all-stars on the team, it doesn't work out because they bring other baggage. But I think one of the curses of being the bishop and the challenges that I personally struggle with now is I was there, when we had these great experiences. I was there when we had the 2-week ward camps. I was there when the ward was like a family, and I was there through all of the bishops. And I think because I have those thoughts and those memories, and you want to somehow carry on that DNA of the ward, that becomes the burden of is how do you keep that going, or if it's lost a little, how do you recreate that? How do we bring? And so I think that's kind of the theme of You Belong, is that regardless, you may not feel for whatever reason, color of skin, the way you talk. I don't have any family here. I'm an outsider. I'm a new person. That I think it's incumbent on us to do what others did before, and welcome them in. Right? Be quick to welcome them in. And I'd like to make sure that everyone realizes that whatever it is that you're going through, when you come to church, that we have a place for you. We have a spot for you. There's room for you. We need some oddballs in our ward anyway, right? But we're all a bunch of misfits, but just a different shade of hair color that will work perfectly with us.
Hauula, 恋のアブはなう